Hello, 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 and welcome to the Jolly Heretic. What a dramatic week! What a dramatic week. If this week has taught us anything, it is that you shouldn't believe a word the media or the ruling class say. This seems to be the biggest psyop and gaslighting exercise I've ever experienced in my life, if you're watching on Charlie's channel, or I've ever experienced since I was narcissistically abused, if you're watching on Richard's. Hello, everybody. Hello, and cheers, everybody, and welcome to the Jolly Heretic. We are online public house. We meet on Mondays, 7 p.m. UK time. 2 p.m. New York, in which we discuss the interesting things of the day from a sort of psychological and evolutionary psychological perspective. So cheers, Hergen Gulligan, K-Piss, Saludo, what is it in Russian?
Na zdrowie. Na zdrowie. Na zdrowie.
Na zdrowie, Prost, and...
Skol.
Skol.
Saúde.
Yaki
Planche.
Slanjava. Cheers, Charlie. Cheers, Richard. Cheers, Kamani from North Korea. I don't believe you. Can Pie says interdimensional lizard. Cheers to you. Cheers, Nimble Horse. Cheers, everybody. Slanja, Lord Kulbacken, and welcome to the Jolly Heretic. I don't know what to say. When I was planning this thing, the usual Monday live stream, I was thinking a few days ago, we'll talk about the riots in Leeds that have happened. The Trump assassination. I mean, the attempt to almost kill a former president. We'll talk about that. And that's just old news now. No one gives. Who cares? Suddenly we have. I don't know. Am I hyperbolizing? I'll start with Charlie. Am I hyperbolizing? Because other people are using this word as well to call this. It's almost like a coup.
Yeah, it is a coup. The pigeons have been fluttering at my windowsill, and they're all speaking of a coup. There's a coup going on, and the left are in disarray. And I was speaking to an Italian coffee seller today, and he says that they've got a big trick up their sleeve. They say it's not going to be Kamala Harris. It's going to be a big trick for the convention coming in 3 weeks in August. So they're saying they're going to bring in something special then. But I think it is going to be the camel-faced Kamala. I think her long equine. I don't know if the horse is a camel is a horse. It's not really, but yeah, she's going to be the president candidate for the left. And I think they're kind of conceding that they're going to lose anyway to Trump. Now, Messiah status, you come at the king, you best not miss. But they missed. They've turned him into a demigod. He's like a demigod now. And so, they're setting her up to lose, I think.
That's interesting, Richard, because since we last spoke, it's true that the mantle of godness has been placed upon President Trump by virtue of him surviving an assassination attempt in a very brave manner. And you've got even people like Mark Zuckerberg and whatever praising him. And you've got left-wing people like Tenacious D or whatever being cancelled for saying they wished he was dead. And it was okay to say they wished he was dead for the last 10 years.
The technical circumstances, he didn't just survive an assassination, but it was an assault rifle bullet coming so close to his brain. So it's literally so close, yet so far for the dirty, lefty, long-haired shooter that tried to turn America into a civil war, desolate landscape. So yeah, so close, yet so far.
The ultimate mutant. I mean, he really was. Just looking at him, as I said to Charlie last week, that wasn't a nose. That was like the head of a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah,
that wasn't a good English, strong, sharp nose like we have.
He was the personification of fetal alcohol syndrome. He was like a sperm with a rifle.
Oh God, yeah, he was a messed up sperm with messed up egg with a rifle because the mother's been knocking back with the Jack Daniels and Cokes and whatever while she's preggers.
Yeah.
And then you see this abomination unto the Lord suddenly lying on a roof. I mean, it wasn't even funny.
I saw the kind of 3D animations that showed exactly how it played out. They did a kind of like 3D fly through and this like really good graphics, and there was a lot of shrubs and bushes. So I think the reason they didn't blow his head off before he took the shot is because they were like, does he have a rifle? Is that just binoculars? Is that a scope?
Surely the reason they didn't blow his head off was because they were so fascinated and mesmerized by the pure ugliness of his face. And they were looking at it. That's what slowed them down. They were like, what? Look at the boat on that. Bloody hell.
He goes full ugly. Like, there's some ugly men out there. Like, for example, the actor Willem Dafoe. He is so ugly that he becomes beautiful. And let's think of another one. Yeah, there's William H. Macy, another American. He's so ugly that he's beautiful.
Some of them are so ugly. There's something amazing about them. There's a lecturer at Ola University like that. She's an American woman. She's so ugly. It's amazing. Yeah. You're drawn into her like a juicer.
You couldn't make it up. The shooter, in this case, the sperm with a rifle, was called Thomas Crooks. Like, even his surname is plural for criminality. It's amazing. You can't. We're either in base reality, which is the mind of the infinite God, or we are in a kind of low-level, badly run simulation. And some
it must do something to you to have a name which means something unpleasant. It's like the word bee. That sounds nice, isn't it? Bee. But the word wasp, that sounds unpleasant. And that must be relevant to why wasps are so unpleasant.
Isn't there a psychological...
like being called a wasp?
There's a psychological...
Sorry. You go on, Richard.
I was just going to say, I think there is a psychological phenomenon where if you are born with a certain name, you do have a tendency towards fulfilling that name. And there is published research on this. You will fulfill your name.
Normative determinism, yeah.
Say it again.
Normative determinism.
Thank you, darling.
So if an African American lady names her daughter Felony, she might go on to commit some crimes.
Yeah, but they don't, do they? They always give their daughters names like Precious.
Please, for the love of God, stop. There is something I was going to say about the godlike status. Let's go there. I just listened to Trump's first speech after the assassination attempt, and he did stand there and say to a passionately adoring crowd, "This was an act of God." He said, "This has to be divine providence. I am chosen by God." So the poor chap, who already has a goodly dose of latent grandiose narcissism, has just had this experience that confirms for him. What else could he possibly conclude? As Charlie said, had he not turned slightly to look at the board he was looking at, that thing was going to hit him in the skull. And at that range, at that speed, and that size of round, he would now not be with us.
Instead, it was just a humble fireman that was killed.
Yeah, very unfortunate.
And God felt that was necessary to he had to be sacrificed.
Listen. Sometimes we need the God logic, and sometimes you just God. He was such a good man that God called him back to heaven.
That must be it. Yeah, that must be that makes complete sense. That makes total sense. Such a good man that God called him back. God sacrificed him so that American white people can live. That was something along those lines. The Republican Party.
There'll be some logical formation that comes post hoc for sure.
But thinking, by the way, we have of course a resident poet here at the Jolly Heretic Public House, Mr. Quinn, and he has written the following about today's discussion: "Have we just witnessed a coup? Has Biden been told what to do? He's finally leading, but few will be grieving. Will Trump be the next in the queue?" Thank you very much, Mr. Quinn. And if you like Mr. Quinn's poetry, which you should do, then you will be able to buy a book of his poetry on the old Amazon. You can also buy, and it's just come out on the old Amazon. For some reason, you can find it if you type it in on my laptop, but not on my phone. But anyway, my new brilliant book, the Woke Eugenics: How Social Justice is a Mask for Social Darwinism. So go over and buy my new brilliant book. Which with J.O.A. Rayner Hills, the squire of the Jolly Heretic Public House, and you will find that there. So go over and purchase that, chaps.
I have to say that is a great title for a book: Woke and Eugenics in the same sentence, in the same title. I love it. It's like black and white together. It's
the cover's quite good. The cover's got three woke people holding a big rainbow flag about to fall off a cliff.
Yeah. Did you generate? I saw that, Ed, on your Twitter. Did you generate that with AI?
I didn't, but my publishers did. Yeah.
I thought it was very good though. It was like, gonna hit the point. So yeah, but I just wanted to add one last thing. On the last thing, the fireman that was shot in the Trump rally by the would-be assassin, goes to show that when a left winger fires into a right wing crowd, he kills a fireman and a devoted father. But then Eric Rittenhouse, who was defending himself in an Antifa rally, he shot two attackers at an Antifa rally, and they were both child molesters. So it just goes to show you, when you fire randomly into the different crowds, you'll hit different types of people.
Different types of people. Yeah, that is true. Very good.
they were attacking him, whereas this fireman had thrown his body over his wife and his child. He was sacrificing himself, whereas Kyle Rittenhouse was actually under attack.
Yeah, he was ensuring that his genetic. Well, put it this way, he was ensuring that his children, who he loved, survived. Putting it another way, he was ensuring that his genes survived, which is adaptive. He's going to populate the future, whereas that vile shooter, 20 years old, not a genetic dead end. It's over for him. And I imagine the two paedophiles that were shot by Rittenhouse.
Sorry, Richard, could you please explain the psychological metaphysics of a real loser, like a real backward, spiteful mutant, wanting to attach themselves to a super popular alpha, ultra high status, like the ugly guy that shot Lenin, the guy that shot the Pope, the guy that shot Reagan, even Lee Harvey Oswald with JFK. These are loser men. Like, what is the metaphysics of attaching yourself by doing something so awful to someone so powerful?
They are so crushed by their own insignificance and wretchedness. They are such spiteful mutants that they will do anything to be seen, anything at all. And the greater their wretchedness, the more hideous and violent the crime. Jordan Peterson's spoken quite a lot about that in reference to school shooters. It's the worst manifestations of malignant resentment and nihilism that leads to a narcissistic and psychopathic view of the world that says, I deserve this. I have suffered so greatly that this is something I'm entitled to do. I have no doubt that he was there with the full intention of killing somebody. And some of the research I did suggested he wasn't really that fussed about Trump. He actually wanted to kill someone famous. He'd actually considered other high-profile targets. Such was his wretchedness. The only way to be seen and of any significance is to do violence to more significant humans than he.
There was that case in Warrington, for our American viewers. This is in Cheshire, in the north of England, of these two 15-year-olds. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. But 15-year-old girl, 15-year-old boy, and they went out and killed this transsexual, this trans woman called Brianna Guy. Yeah. And they just wanted to kill somebody. And they tried various different people, but those people weren't naive enough to be allowed themselves to be killed. But this Brianna person was, and so Brianna was killed. And they were just these two utter psychopaths or whatever they were, like narcissists that found each other. They found each other, and they were this girl and this boy, and they were very, very similar to each other in so many ways. They were cleverer than everybody else at the school. They got on. They really clicked. They were like the two halves, and they came together, and in coming together, these two narcissists just caused chaos. And the same thing, just kill somebody. Just kill somebody.
Almost like a deep, like, metaphysical inevitability about it. How society, we instinctively feel fearful around the spiteful mutants, and we ostracize them, and we avoid them, and we don't invite them to our house parties. And then that justifies the hatred that they have for us. Like, you only hate me because I'm genetically inferior and a loser, and I'm not very sociable. And so you see the engine kind of start spinning, and the only way it'll end is in someone dying or going to jail. And
that is why based societies, they notice people that look disgusting, even as children, and they just sort of isolate them and put them in the jungle and leave them there. I mean, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible. I'm not advocating this. I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying that is what they do. That is what they do.
Well, the Spartans are famous for leaving the spiteful mutant babies out on the hill, and then that's why they didn't have any lefties in their garrisons,
Yes, exactly. They did. And also, there was an environmental element to that. I mean, to survive the Agoge, you had to, it was a pretty nasty, rough, unpleasant 8 or 7 years of your life, in which you had to go around killing helots and things like that and stealing for food. But on both these methods, and also that for American viewers in England, there's a TV host called Holly Willoughby, reasonably pretty, successful, and there was just this Jabba the Hutt slug that had developed this sexual fantasy about abducting her and doing all kinds of awful things to her and killing her. This vile specimen, and it was found out. And he was quite this sort of, I don't know if you've seen the film Human Centipede 2.
Yeah, like, his surname was Plum.
Like the security guard in that kind of person. And he was really serious about it, and he got quite far in his planning. So it's those, and that's what we're dealing with. But going back to the main topic, though, I mean, psychology-wise or whatever, it is quite amazing what's happened over the last week. I still have to sort of pinch myself to think that I'm not living in 1984. That the party decides the truth, and the media and their hangers on, and the truth is Joe Biden is not senile, even though he clearly is and has been since 2020. He's clear he's not senile. He's not senile. Oh, and then but then he's looking like he's going to lose, and so the party of democracy decides that even though he's been elected in the primaries, he must stand down. And he says, oh, I'm not going to stand down. I'm not going to stand down. Only God Almighty could force me to stand down, which maybe he has. And that was the case 24 hours ago. And then suddenly he gets COVID in the same way that Gorbachev got ill. His wife's away somewhere, therefore his son's away. He's on his own. He's isolated. And you can do all kinds of psychological techniques to people when they're on their own, as we both know. And then suddenly. He said no announcement because he's got COVID conveniently. He's got COVID.
Yeah.
You know? So no announcement. A letter comes out and a tweet comes out saying, oh, I'm standing down. Yeah, yesterday I was fighting, but now I'm standing down. And then they forget to put in that, oh, I'm supporting Kamala. So then they put another one out because when you're in a rush like that, you cock things up. I know he's not fit to run. He's senile. Everyone knows that. But then he is fit to be president of America. And Richard was pointing out earlier that he was it recently, some months ago, it was said that he didn't have to be brought to court to give testimony, or he
wasn't mentally fit.
He should be let off with regard to having brought secret documents back to his house or something, because he's an old man who makes mistakes, which is code for senile.
I've got a story for you guys, right? So, like about 4 days ago, Barack Obama, they brought in the big Obama to have a word with Joe Biden. And on the surface, for the peasantry, for the plebs, like they're meant to be friends. But Joe Biden hates Barack Obama because Joe Biden hoped that he would be the candidate for the Democrats in 2016, but Obama chose Hillary Clinton and stabbed Joe Biden in the back. They had the kind of background like Gordon Brown, Tony Blair agreement in that way. And Joe Biden feels that had he been elected or tried to be elected against Trump in 2016, he could have maybe done the 8 years and he'd be finishing now, for this election. He'd have done 8 years now. And so he feels totally robbed. And this is why we saw on Twitter, he came out and say, I am staying. I'm going to be the candidate straight after the Barack Obama thing. But then I reckon Barack Obama had the little vial of the Chinese cough and sneeze. And then he got COVID and then he was isolated. Maybe just a bit of Omicron, just a mild COVID, just so he'd have to isolate. And then, when an old man's by himself, as you guys know, as we've discussed, it's easy to whisper in his ear that,
Like my grandmother, she had a fall when she was in her late 80s and she went to hospital and, sort of isolated essentially. And she went mad. I mean, for the period, she went crazy. I rung her up and she was saying that the doctors had said they were gonna rape her and then take her outside and throw her to the wolves.
Wow,
I said, right, that's very interesting. Can you put me back? Can you put the nurse back on, please? And I said, yeah, my grandmother, she's made quite a serious allegation against the doctors. I explained what it was, and she said, Mr. Dutton, I can assure you that none of our doctors are going to sexually assault your grandmother. And they haven't been wolves since the 13th century. I mean, the wolves bit seemed very far fetched. I have to say
the wolves bit was what gave it away. I think paranoid ideation. If you already feel vulnerable and then you're out of your regular pattern, the things that reassure you, your usual coping mechanisms, paranoid ideation it's likely to set in even with quite healthy people, I think.
Exactly. And so therefore he's isolated and he's elderly and he's senile. And I believe senility makes you a bit paranoid anyway. Yeah. And so he's obviously very paranoid. And so it's not going to take much for people that have people working for them that are experts on mind control and all this sort of stuff, to just do the right things to sort of pressure him into doing what they want, and then keeping him isolated as well, so he can't then go on TV and say, my fellow Americans, this is a coup, like.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
To the point about the spinning of the narrative, which we're seeing a lot of, I think like the red line for narcissistic psychopathy there is the actions don't match the words. They never do. They never do. The actions don't match the words. And the other thing, there is this mobile floating sort of moral system. There's a moral system that's shown to you, but it switches dependent on the context and the objectives they need to fulfill. These are not sincere people. These are not people who are interested in the truth. They're letting you know that the only thing they're interested in is maintaining control and maintaining power. But it does look like they're failing, which is good news.
But why then, Richard, why do they have the audacity to, I mean, sure, they must understand that most people are going to have the intelligence to see through this. Is it that they feel that we like to live in a world where we think it's positive? We like to live in a world that we think is a nice world. And so we will therefore do everything we can to convince ourselves of the veracity of what they're saying. It puts me in mind of COVID. You know, they feel a sense of panic. They feel a sense of a lack of control. They have to come up with omniscience. The omniscience is a wet market. And and there's so many holes in it. And so it's so typical cognitive dissonance. You just shut down the interlocutor who's questioning you, chuck them off YouTube, chuck them off Twitter, chuck them off everything. But then gradually to engage in a kind of damage limitation, because you are lying and you are wrong, then you gradually allow a member of the establishment who you trust, i.e. this Nicholas Wade person, a person we can trust, a member of the ruling class. He went to Eton and stuff, he's allowed to come out and say these things, and then suddenly the narrative is changed, and then everyone just forgets about all of the awful stuff that occurred.
I mean that's pure narcissism. You've accused me of something that I've done. I deny it until reality creeps in, and then I will admit it. But I will admit it by proxy in a way that maintains my superior dynamic to you. And I'll never go back in time and say, when what you were saying last year, actually, that was true. I'm sorry about that. I will just act as though you never said it. And that's what they've done. They've just said, no, nobody was saying that. This gentleman that I have appointed, I'm still in charge. I'm still in control. I still have the superior dynamic. He is allowed to say it. You are not. You are not.
And you didn't say it, but you did. So they've kind of memory holed the fact that it was all these proles and plebs and dissidents,
people like me,
that were saying this stuff.
Untermensch.
And they just allowed Nicholas Wade, because he's been to Eton and he's been the editor of Nature and the editor of Science, and he's liberal and he's trusted. He can come out almost like they asked him to. He can come out and say it. When they change their minds on race, I assume they'll do the same thing. They'll have some Labour person coming out and saying, obviously, there's race differences. Of course, we never denied
it will still be done under the same tactics.
We've never hidden it. We've known it for decades. We've never hidden it. Why did you accuse us of ever trying to hide that? Like, what are you trying to say?
That's a good tactic.
Didn't all these people lose their jobs? All these academics, weren't they fired? Well, things have happened, and let's move on. What is important? So Tony Blair, what is important is that we move on and we together. But that's what is important, and that's what they'll do. And that's what they're going to, and that's what they're trying to do with this. And I know they're probably going to get away with it, except if we look into, chaps, the utter uselessness of Kamala Harris. So I was watching some interesting stuff about her. So she's not very bright, bless her. I mean, she failed her attempt to become a lawyer. She failed the bar exam, which is for California, and had to take it again. But in the meantime, got in with this guy Willie Brown, who was the black guy, who was the he was the chairman of the California, the California Parliament, whatever you call it. And then he was mayor of San Francisco. And even though he was married, she was his girlfriend, and she was shagging him. And consequently, he was 30 years older than her. This is in the 90s, and consequently, he opened up all kinds of doors for her. And so basically, due to her judicious use of her lady parts, that is the main reason why her career, why she was able to become the Attorney General of California, this, that, the other of California, and then rise up the pole.
I can't imagine that's all they have to offer. I can't imagine that's the best that the Democratic Party has to offer. There's no way that she is the best of the best behind Joe Biden. That's just not a possibility. Well,
no, we know that because it's under the intense pressure of the Black Lives Matter George Floyd insanity, where, by the way, she kneeled for about 10 minutes, Kamala Harris. Under that pressure, Black Lives Matter went to Biden and said, you should appoint someone that is black as your vice president, and preferably a woman that is black as well. And he made it absolutely clear that whoever is going to be appointed my vice presidential nominee, they will be a black woman. I mean, he was absolutely clear on this. Well, she's not black; she's black stroke Indian, but anyway. So she was not appointed on merit. She was maybe appointed on merit from among the various black women that he could find. Although I'm not even sure that's the case. I mean, there's plenty of black women that I'm sure are more competent than Kamala Harris. But but maybe they're not very pretty, and she's quite pretty. Maybe that was the other thing you had to think about. So not very photographic and telegenic. But then she's obviously a bit mad as well. I mean, if you notice the sort of logorrhea she engages in, she just sort of loses where she's talking and sort of just talks nonsense.
Yeah, and that screaming laughter. Like, so coming back to your story, you're saying she actually shagged her way to the top in the 90s with a 30-year-older man.
Yes, and eventually that when it was looking like he was going to become mayor of San Francisco, and she would then be like mayoress, then the wife got jealous and said, "Hey, no, Willie, you're not. I'm the lady mayoress. I'm your bottom bitch." And
Kamala, the camel-faced Kamala, she stores political power in her humps, not water and fat like the other camels. She's like stores in her humps. She stores the power.
She does. She stores the power in her humps and in her bacon sandwich, and these permit her ultimately to climb the metaphorical pole of power, which is also a penis. In
case none of you got that.
Yeah, in case you didn't get that. In case that was.
She's a scary, strong woman, Kamala. Like, I reckon she used her big battle vagina to climb that big pole.
Yeah, to climb that pole with her.
She's been doing her Kegel exercises. They call her the shaft snapper.
Yeah, there's zero chance I can leave this on my channel now. It's just no chance I can leave this on my channel.
She will. I like that.
Go on.
A shaft snapper. It sounds like a sort of freshwater fish. You might go out one day on the river way in Guildford, and you'd be sitting there for a few hours, and what will you call anything big, anything worth mounting? No, a shaft snapper. Yeah, I got a shaft snapper. It wriggled around, but eventually I managed to get hold of it.
God!
Imagine like Kamala Harris is your partner, and she starts cackling. You know how she cackles hysterically when she feels she's made a funny point, and she does that, and it's very demonic. It's like how I would try and imitate a wicked witch. That's how I would laugh to imitate a wicked witch, and that's her natural laugh.
So it's possible then that she is a witch. She is like a succubus.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's true. Going back to what we're saying about spiteful mutants, that was what, of course, as I look at in my book about witches, that's what they were. These were like narcissistic, nasty people that would literally, they would put curses on people in a context in which people believed in the power of the curse. So there was the nocebo effect. They would poison people. They would kill babies. I mean, they would do these things. I mean, these were really antisocial, unpleasant old women. That were really nasty people. And that's why the community wanted to get rid of them, because they spread negative feelings in the community, and the community genuinely believed these people had the power to harm them. And often they believed they had the power to harm.
Yeah, scary witches and their scary growlers, man. You got to stay away from them. Man.
Stay away from a witch. It's weird they don't talk that much about growlers in fairy tales. They talk about gingerbread houses. I guess it's a Freudian.
It could be. When they shove the children into the ovens, it's all very Freudian.
It's very Freudian.
To smother them to death. I did wonder with the cackle if it's not also an indication that maybe there's not that much going on up top, and she uses it as sort of a cover for the fact that she really doesn't have that much to say, because there's really not that much going on cognitively for her. I don't get the impression that she's a particularly bright woman, and sometimes people will laugh with this fake gregarious laugh to just seem like they're involved and engaged.
Yes, I was watching something today by this chap called Ben Shapiro, who's an American. Have you heard of Ben Shapiro? He talks very fast. He should slow down.
Yeah, anyway, Laura was saying he does a good Kamala. My girlfriend was saying he does a good Kamala impression.
He does. No, he does. It was very, very good. And he highlighted in this video I was watching called what was it? Shamala. All of the occasions on which she's asked a difficult question, or even actually quite a sensitive question. So what's your opinion on third trimester abortion? Like really inappropriate responses, like you might get from
It's like a smoke screen.
Yes, it's just a way of avoiding the question, like the way that Jimmy Savile would avoid a question by getting a banana.
And do you guys think it works on the normies? Obviously, we are three, distinguished, fine, high IQ gentlemen. But does it work for the normies? Does that smoke screen that she does work for them?
Everyone I know hates her. All the lefty people I know can't stand her. She's universally disliked and held in contempt by everyone I know. But obviously, some people are behind her, and I've seen people getting behind her on ethnic lines, which is a real shame. It's so disappointing.
There's some research indicating that women are much more likely to vote for a woman than a man, in all else being equal, and that even men are a bit more likely to vote for a woman than a man. So she has that going for her, the fact of being a woman. So think how despised Hillary Clinton must have been for all of these women and men to not vote for her, despite her being a woman. So I don't know if she has that same problem. But what I don't understand, though, is why it is. Well, I suppose one explanation would be the research that I did with J.O.A. Rayner Hills, which is that the left are getting stupider and the right are getting stupider but less quickly, which would make sense of the fact that there's no one noticeably good among the Democrats that's come forward. Whereas among the Republicans, he's able to select this guy J.D. Vance, who comes across as intelligent and thoughtful and whatever, not a problem. But the Democrats seem to have an issue finding. Although to be fair, I thought is her name Tulsi Gabbard?
Tulsi Gabbard.
She came across to me as more intelligent than Kamala Harris.
She's way more intelligent. That's an intelligent woman.
So why the hell did they
she's even liked by right-wing people? Even right-wing people like Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah.
I thought she'd switched.
Oh, she switched?
Is she, I don't know. I thought, because she would have been somebody that I would have, I'm not American, but I would have backed as a Democrat candidate. Yeah. But I think she switched sides.
He should have asked her. Maybe he wanted someone that was a bit stupid. I don't know.
They'll tell you in the comments if I'm talking crap.
Are we Americans? If you're an American, can someone tell me about this Tulsi Gabbard person?
She's ex-military. She's got the courage of her conviction. She's a good speaker.
But she is a Democrat. Oh, Kay says that Tulsi did switch. So she's now a Republican. I see.
Oh, that's the right-wing people like her. Yeah, I got it.
Infinitely. Okay. All right. Fine. Okay. That's good. So we're having this mass gaslighting. And I can only. I'm trying to think. The simpler explanation is that he's senile anyway. He's very ill. And he the COVID just knocks him out, and he knows he's lying to himself when he's saying I'm going to finish, and he has some kind of moment of epiphany or something like this. That's the kindest explanation. But that still begs the question of why this has been allowed to go on for such a long time. I mean, as recently as a week ago, 2 weeks ago, CNN was saying that if you said that Biden was unfit for office physically or mentally, it was a bogus narrative and a conspiracy theory. And then suddenly it is very, very true, and it's the reason why he has to go. Because there can't be any other reason he has to go. I mean, I can't think of any.
I want to ask Richard, what would it be like? How could I simulate what it's like to be Joe Biden? Is there anything I can do or take that? I'm very curious to know what it's like to be a senile 81-year-old man.
12 pints of Guinness, a few lines of ketamine, and then do some hard sparring for around 12 rounds. Get some CTE going. And then for about half an hour afterwards, you will also be, oh, man, and walking into walls where there's no doors.
Very interesting. That might be a very good earning YouTube video for me to try. Actually,
could be.
I think Charlie, next time we meet, we should do that.
I think we should do the senility challenge, and they'll film it, and it'll go viral.
Like the cold water challenge thing, the ice bucket thing, like that.
The Biden challenge.
The Biden challenge, yes, the Biden challenge.
The Biden challenge: 12 pints of Guinness, horse tranquilizer from your vet,
and
a box, and then run for public office.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Listen, my darling gentlemen, I'm going to have to love you and leave you guys, unfortunately. I've got some duties to attend to with baby and so forth. But I've thoroughly enjoyed this a lot. It's been amazing. I want to do it with you guys or whatever in the future. I think we're a good trio.
Yes, let's do
Thanks,
that.
Charlie.
Let's do that next week. Tally ho.
Tally ho. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching.
Cheers, Charlie.
I'll see you guys very soon. Ciao, ciao.
Nice to meet you.
I got to exit full screen here and then leave studio. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. What can I say to that other than I'm sorry. Okay.
I cannot leave this video public. I'm just it's going to go unlisted.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll put it on Odyssey then.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're okay. I don't know what I said that was that bad this time. But I think it's over because I think it was quite an interesting chat. But no, yeah. The thing which you don't have children, so you don't know this when they're just born, and it's all like actually it's not that much work. But you have to if you make your wife do all the work. But you have to you got to like give the impression that you're like, yes, darling, yes, just let me help you do this, and that's what
support, etc. I have looked after for my sister a couple of newborns, and yes, sometimes it's fine, and then sometimes it's terribly dramatic, and there's constant emergencies.
It depends on the nature of the newborn as well. If they're colicky, I don't know if anyone else out there has had a colicky child, and that you can't get them to sleep. Like the difference between my own two children, my daughter, stick her in the pram, and we have to rock the pram 500 times for her to fall asleep. My son, stick him in the pram, he just falls asleep.
Yeah.
So that's different kind of baby. So no, I do not understand what this is. This is, as I say, to repeat myself, but this is just a massive psyop, and I just. The idea, it's like the Marquis of Winchester in, if you heard of him, and he was the only person out of Henry VIII's government that was still in power when Elizabeth came to the throne, and he died in 1572. And first he was Catholic, and then he was, and that was under Henry VIII, and then he was pro Henry VIII said, okay, Church of England, so he was Church of England Catholic, and then Edward VI comes in, so then he's like Protestant, Calvinist, or whatever, and then Mary comes in, so suddenly I realised I was wrong, I'm Catholic again. Let's burn the Protestants, burn them at the stake.
It's that mobile, fluid, moral center I was talking about before. You know,
it's no moral center, is it? It's self-preservation. It's not even self-preservation. It's self-augmentation. It's the idea. Yes. I want to have power and money and influence and absolutely no principle. And if I'm clever enough, if I'm manipulative enough, then I will be a vicar of Bray. CV is saying precisely, vicar of Bray. The cat's meowing. Hang on. And then I will just carry on. What do you want? What do you want? Come in here. Right.
What do you want? Damn you vile creature! What do you want?
He's meowing. He's asking. You know what they've managed to do? My cats. Imagine like a window, like a narrow window like that, with a handle like that, right? And they've managed to work out how to open the window. I don't know how they do it. Like to push the handle up, and then pull the window open with their paws, and then like somehow because it's like triple glazing. It's Finland, you see, and then pull the other window open. And then get out of the house. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how. The other day I got back and I went and I realized the window was open. I was like, I did not open that window. And they what? Shut up. And they both got out. And then another thing they do is we've got this Tupperware box which we put the little they sell cat food now in sachets rather than tins, which is a problem. And every morning I wake up and they've knocked the box onto the floor, managed to open the box, and then they've stolen various sachets of cat food which they've sucked the contents out of. It's a constant problem. I don't know what to do.
Little monsters. On the spectrum of incompetence to conspiracy, where do you stand on all this stuff? Like, do you think it's broad scale incompetence, or do you think there is some dark master plan?
It's normal. No, it's. I mean, I'll happily do a video for clickbait purposes saying it's a master plan, but it almost always isn't. You can have small scale conspiracies. You can have cover ups. So something like the Koof and the idea that it was from a wet market because they had to be something because they didn't understand what it was and they couldn't have people questioning it. That seems to me to be that's lying plus then a cover up because they've got to save face and then they gradually move back. Fine, got it. With something like, I mean, a good example is in England, for American viewers, in England from the 60s right up into the 80s, there was this cover up of a guy called Lord Boothby, who was a conservative peer. And he got involved with through nightclubs and things with these gangsters called the Krays, he then sort of did political favors for them in return for them finding him rent boys. And then when this came to light, and there was going to be an article about it in the Mirror newspaper, it would have been so damaging to the Conservative government, which was already under pressure. It was covered up. And it didn't come out until he died. And with Prince Philip, only now they are admitting now, I mean, like this morning, that he was heavily involved with the Christine Keeler affair, and probably had sex with Christine Keeler.
With the China thing, why do you think we were so ginger with making accusations against them? What's the power dynamic there that meant we felt like we couldn't just say you guys fucked up here?
Yeah, that's quite a good point. I think I suppose that we were in a position of sort of chaos. We didn't know what the hell was going on. We didn't know what to do. Perhaps we required their cooperation on some level to stop it spreading more. And so there was probably behind the scenes negotiations, and so we couldn't say anything like that. And also, if they told us it was a wet market, which they probably then lie. Then we had to believe it, and we just couldn't have people going around questioning. You can't have people going around questioning things in a time of total chaos. And
sorry,
I was just saying, if life is chaos, which is what life feels like if you're living in the 16th century and there's famines, then you can see how heretics going around questioning things is really hard for people to cope with, and so they kill them.
They kill them. Are we beholden to China in some way? Do we owe them a lot of money? Are we dependent on them for?
We think of all the stuff that we have that's made in China. We have allowed. It's such a decadent thing to do. I think we have allowed these people to go from being like what it was like in the 80s. Remember Tiananmen Square? There's no cars. They're all wearing boiler suits. There's all little bicycles and stuff. That's what China was like. To a situation where they've managed to become extremely wealthy. And we gave them back Hong Kong, which we shouldn't have done. Because it wasn't from them, it wasn't from the communist state that we took Hong Kong, it was from what is now Taiwan that we leased Hong Kong. That's the legitimate successor government of China, of Chiang Kai-shek. And so we've allowed them to become rich in the same way that we in Britain are so stupid that we've allowed Germany to become rich. I mean, if you're watching this and you're German, no offense, but we have, after the war, what was the point of a united Germany? Why did we allow in 1989 Germany to reunite? We should have done everything possible to keep them separate countries. What possible interest is there for us in having a united,
human rights,
wealthy,
quality of life,
hard-working, intelligent country on our borders?
We should keep them broken and crippled forever. Divided
back up into the
divide the people, cut them down the middle. If you're German, sever them.
Right, exactly. But absolutely ludicrous for us to allow the Germans to become a united state. Much better that you have West Germany and East Germany. Better still that you, before Bismarck or whatever it was, that you have all these different micro states. Much better for us. Useless.
Balkanize, you mean?
Yeah, balkanize them. Right. So I think that's the problem with China, that we've lost our mojo. Someone's saying exactly. We're not defending our interests. How is it in our interests that India becomes rich? How is it in our interest that China becomes rich? You know what we did before when China when the economy was more based on silver, and China produced a lot of silver. It had all this silver, and so we thought, well, what we can do to keep them under control is just flood the country with opium. And then get them all addicted to opium, and that'll sort of keep them under our control somewhat. That's what
wasn't terribly sporting of us, though.
It wasn't sporting. No.
We'll turn you all into drug addicts in the name of our...
You could argue they turned us into drug addicts because they got us addicted to tea.
Yes.
Caffeine's a drug.
It is. I probably would rather be addicted to tea than opium, but I take your point.
I've had 3 cups of coffee and 3 cups of tea only today. And
yes.
And that's not including the various glasses of Coca-Cola I've had. So, you know, it's a very
hello.
if I don't have admittedly coffees from South America, that's a different point. But if I don't, it is caffeine. If I don't have my coffee in the morning, eventually I get like a headache. It's why it's a serious problem if you stay in a hotel that has crap coffee. It's really, you know, then you've got like, what can I do? What can I do? You know,
it's bloody awful.
Awful. That was the good thing about that place in Liverpool. It had good coffee.
It did.
You know, it was like
nice hotel.
What's that hotel called? I liked that hotel. They write to me once a week.
I can't remember. It's very nice though. It's opposite the Philharmonic.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's
lovely.
Good hotel. Nice bar. It was a good hotel. Much better than that rubbish hotel, the Loft.
Oh god,
I didn't like
it was crap, wasn't it?
Awful, wasn't it? Even though it looked beautiful, but they abjectly, the food was dreadful. The food was late. There wasn't an appropriate bar on the floor where my speech was. And it was just God, what a waste. Yeah, coffee is a drug, Robert Rhymes. You are right about that. It is a drug. Anyway, I'm going to turn to about halfway through. Yes, I have to do that. So about halfway through, those of you that are new, hello, and welcome to the Jolly Heretic. We are an online public house. Meets on Mondays at 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. New York, in which we discuss take a based psychological take on the happenings of the week. And if you would like to support the channel, then there are various ways in which you can do so. But please subscribe here on the Jolly Heretic. Subscribe also on Richard's channel, which is Richard Grannon, and Charlie's channel, which is Charlie Veach. And also subscribe on my Substack, which is jollyheretic.com. Where where I put all the based and interesting stuff which I can't put on YouTube, and where I interview various interesting people. So, for example, I don't know if you've read a book called "We Need to Talk About Kevin" by a writer called Lionel Shriver. If you go there, you will see my interview with Lionel Shriver, or my interview with Graham Linehan, or various other people that like my channel. So subscribe there, and if you like what I do, then you can support me for as little as the cost of a pint of beer a month. You can also send in super chats on the old YouTube, on the old Entropy, which we will of course answer any time. And you can purchase my books, all of which are available on the old Amazon. If you are new to my stuff, then a good introduction. A good introduction is this book, which is The Naked Classroom: The Evolutionary Psychology of Your Time at School, which basically looks at all of the questions you would have asked at school about the nature of your school, but wouldn't have understood the answer to, or wouldn't have dared ask from an evolutionary psychological perspective, such as what is that attractive female teacher doing having sex with the kid in year 11 who's really good at football? Why do the special kids literally look different? Why were your English teachers female? Why do boys tend to like science more than girls? That kind of thing. So do go and purchase that. And also there is, of course, my new brilliant book, Woke Eugenics, which argues that wokeness is a group level adaptation to make us all genetically healthy and based once again. So there we go. Right, now we've had some questions, so I'm going to turn to some of the questions that have been sent in. So first of all, we have a question from Wilson Bear, and he says people who do not agree on basic ideas about how people are supposed to live together cannot live together peacefully. Diversity is a disaster. No, I'm not sure. I mean, an element of diversity can be good, can't it? I mean, because if you have an element of diversity, then you have people questioning your ideas and your thoughts, and you can sort of move on to more nuanced and more interesting thoughts, and you can develop new things. I mean, an element of diversity is good, but just not too much.
I just wanted to interject with an idea that I think I'm stealing this from Konstantin Kissin. If the diversity that you have is largely performative and rooted in ethnicity, sexuality, and gender, but then you don't permit diversity of thought, you're creating levels of tension and cognitive dissonance that eventually will become unbearable and lead to violence.
Leave it. Sorry, there's a fly on one of my big lights that shines at me, and the cat is trying to kill it.
I thought the cat was going for your beer for a second there.
Do you want some beer? Do you want some beer, Bart? No. Okay. But I didn't call it Bart. I inherited that name from the person that rescued it from the streets.
Fair enough.
No, I think that's true. What kind of diversity? So if you have, and again, too much, too little. So there's a book by It's called Beyondism by a 20th century psychologist called Raymond Cattell. And he argued, well, there's this balance that has to be got right. This is the opposite of what Karl Popper argues. Karl Popper goes on about the open society, the importance of the open society, diversity, it's great. Just to have all kinds of openness and no taboos, and you don't have to agree with anything, and just that's his idea. And he's saying, Cattell's saying, no. If you have too little diversity, then life is boring, obviously, but you and it's oppressive, and you stagnate and you go backwards. So that's bad. Yep. If you have too much diversity, then you balkanize. You've got to have, whether it's in terms of religion, whether it's in terms of worldview, whether it's in terms of philosophy, whether it's in terms of whatever, certain fundamentals that you kind of agree on, things that you agree on, but you've got to also maintain an atmosphere that is open-minded to new ideas and new possibilities, and that in particular you ultimately need people that are going to die for the society, that are going to lay down their lives to repel the enemy at the gate. And people don't lay down their lives for like the idea of the open society. People lay down their lives for religion, for God, for their ethnic interests, for this idea of their extended ethnic family dressed up in religious terms. That's what we saw in World War II. That's what people like your great-grandfather who died in World War I, or my great-great-uncle that died in World War I, unquestionably did. Both called Dutton, of course. Unquestionably did. The Duttons, unquestionably, they died for what were effectively, in the case of my great-great-uncle childless, in the case of your, of course, children, they died for their greater genetic interests, and they died as was presented to them for what was religiously right, what was divinely ordained, and these were the fundamentals that once you start questioning that, then social trust falls down and you balkanize, and that's what we've kind of done.
I was going to raise a counterpoint, but I think you've just killed it. So I was going to say the United Arab Emirates is an incredibly diverse society that's economically thriving, but then there is an ultimate authority. It's an Islamic theocracy at the end of everything. Once you go down all the levels of bureaucracy, the buck stops with the sheikh, and it's an Islamic theocracy. And then I thought as well, it's not been to war. With all the people who are living there right now, if the enemy were at the gates, literally, not metaphorically, would people die for it? Probably not. Probably not. Unless you compelled them at the point of a gun, I don't think that they would.
No, perhaps not, and that's one of the in many of these societies. I mean, Afghanistan's a good example. Even though, so that's the other interesting point, is you've got to have both the religiosity, which can be used to present people with the fact that there's something greater and you're dying for it. This is really just a way of dressing up ethnic interests, and so therefore you've got to have an optimum level of homogeneity. Again, too much homogeneity, and you're going to be very, very conformist and not a particularly open society, and you're not going to develop very well, maybe. And too little homogeneity, and you balkanize into separate subgroups, and nobody trusts anybody else. And so there's got to be this balance. And so, I mean, in Finland, within my 20 years here, it's gone from being a really closed society, a very racist society. You couldn't get any foreign stuff here. Everybody was the same. Everyone did the same things, and there was something that was quite good about that in a way, but it was boring and it was oppressive. And now, you'd have to go to Sweden to get curry powder. And now it's gone the other way, but it's balkanizing. So I think there's this balance.
It's a balance. This is Professor Ed Dutton with the progressive talking points. Diversity is good. You heard it here on my channel. That's what Professor Ed Dutton said.
No. An optimum level of diversity is good. That's what I said.
I am a narcissist. I can spin any narrative the way I want it to go.
Balance? I wonder if the balance is something like, I don't know, being in, I don't know, within England. Imagine being in a town that's basically almost completely white. It's almost completely homogenous.
The Wirral.
But you then have all the benefits of diversity, but the main benefit basically being a large array of takeaway food. And that's what you have on the Wirral. You have all the benefits of it, the large array of food, as I said, and none of the downsides. The downsides, where it's overwhelmingly non scouse or it's and there's grooming gangs and all that. That's in other parts of Liverpool. That's in Toxteth or whatever. That's the downside of it. I went to Toxteth. This place bloody falling apart. You've got old pubs that have become Ethiopian restaurants and nail bars. It's appalling. The good side of it is Birkenhead, Wallasey, whatever this New Ferry, whatever that place was called.
New Ferry. Where I am now. I'm round the corner right now in this Airbnb from your grandfather's old house.
Are you round the corner from grandfather's or great-great-grandfather's house?
Great-great-grandfather. Do you remember Thorburn Road?
Thorburn Road, that was it. Thorburn Road. That was where he lived. So I don't know when I'm going to put that footage out. But I went with Richard to the various ancestral homelands, and one of them was great-great-grandfather George Herbert Dutton, who was president of Liverpool Engineering Society. Leave it alone! Bad cat. No, don't meow at me. Bad cat. No, shut up.
That's a back chat cat.
Stop it. Allah. Pahakissa. Allah. Right. I
thought you were using Islamic prayers to bring the demons out of it then.
No, I was saying don't. Bad. Shut up. Stop it. It's a fly. Leave it alone.
Alhamdulillah, bring shaitan out of the cat.
Unbelievable. Well, I can't show him to you because he was brought on the street. He was born on the streets, and in that bonding period that they have with humans, he didn't have that. So he won't let you. He won't let you pick him up. As I've said before, he's my cat's cat. He's Sulo's cat.
Oh, that's the cat's cat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the cat's cat. So he'll let you touch him like in the mornings when he wants breakfast or whatever. But then earlier, when he was sitting on the window behind the blind, looking out the window, I went out and opened the blind. He turned around and went to me, which is the rudest thing you can say in cat.
Bloody rude.
And he realised he'd crossed a line because then a minute later he wanted food. And he was all like, meow, meow. But I was like,
I see.
Me.
So it was racist slurs against humans a minute ago, but now you want feeding. I see.
Now you want feeding. Now humans are great. Humans are great.
Humans are fucking great now. All for diversity when he needs a fucking meal.
He needs food. He loves living with humans. But when he just wants to learn to stare out the window, it hates you. It hates me sometimes, Joe. I don't call it
borderline. It's a borderline personality.
It's not borderline because it's male. It's just a narcissist. So you don't get all cats that are borderline are female. That's fact. That's
a science.
Because the sexual dimorphism between female and male cat in cats is much lower than in humans, isn't it? So you're going to get less mental dimorphism as well. So I hope that answers the question, sir. So the next question comes from Adrian R, and he says, "Shut up, hi Ed. It would be great if you could. Can you hear him?
Yes.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
The whole world can hear him.
Hi Ed. It would be great if you could explore the MAOA gene on your channel. I suspect that many far left individuals have low activity of this gene. I've never heard of the M.
Isn't it the God? Is that the worship gene? The God gene?
Is that the that one? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, MAOA. Yeah, yes, that's it. MAOA. The that's it. The God gene. Yeah, well, that would make sense if they had. I might try and interview someone that knows all about that actually at some point.
That would be cool.
I've got this huge there's this geneticist of religion, and I will see if I can find. There was a guy I wanted to interview. You know the God helmet. You heard of that? So it's this helmet, and they put it on. It's an electric helmet, and it stimulates your brain, and it induces religious experiences in you.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I wanted to interview the guy that invented that, but then he died about 10 years ago, so I can't.
Bloody rude. Before you could interview him, inconsiderate.
I wrote to him back when he was alive, and he responded, and he seemed quite quite a reasonable guy. And then I got my YouTube channel, looked into interviewing him, dead. I can't remember his name, but I know he was active. He was an American that was at Laurentian University in Canada. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but that's very sad. Okay, next question comes from Low Mercury Tuna, and he says one's half black child is as genetically related to one as a random white person. Yes. If one bred with one's half black child, would risks of genetic disorders be as if with a non-white person. That's a very interesting question. Yes, it is true that you would be genetically more different from your child, and so consequently, the likelihood of double doses would be very, very. It's quite a strange question to ask. But anyway, the likelihood of double doses would be very low, because it is indeed the case that if you marry someone that is strongly genetically different from you, then you are as related to your child as you would be to a random member of your own race. That is true.
But don't breed with your child.
Don't.
Please.
As a rule,
Don't.
this isn't ancient Egypt, or you know, where people bred with their. Well, they certainly bred with their grandparents, didn't they? I don't know if they bred with their parents.
I think so. Or there were cases. There were. I think there was like maybe one case or one or two cases.
I mean, yeah, just don't breed with your children.
But don't.
Don't. It's not. It's just an idea.
Nah.
There's some of you out there, it might occur to you, particularly if you're left wing. But don't do it. Don't breed with. Don't.
That's life coaching advice that we're giving right now, and I think it's good.
That is good advice. If you're having trouble finding a girlfriend, don't breed with your daughter. I'd say don't.
Oh God. Yeah, well, we agree. I think everybody in the chat.
There's not disagreement on that. There are some people like Andrew Gold, who interviewed me on his channel, who interviewed, the types, so there are people out there that are up for this kind of stuff.
Andrew Gold has interviewed people who's done that.
Yeah, not with their children, but like pedophiles.
Really? Oh, I saw your interview with Andrew Gold was very good. I highly recommend it to everybody. Go and look up Andrew Gold, Heretics, Professor Dutton. After this, watch that. It's great.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But he was saying that if you read his book, then he interviewed this German
files.
German couple, and that's the one. This German couple, and they're both pedophiles, the woman and the man. And they've got together, but they're non-active pedophiles, and they encourage other pedophiles to be non-active. But they are sexually attracted to young children. It's absolutely appalling. And he just said, well, if you can't understand these people, can you stop meowing? Right. Then defiant of that. Go away. If you look, people want to see a cat, right? If they just let me pick you up. Right, and off he goes. Then off he goes.
Because not interested.
What he wants. I feed them multiple times a day. They steal food in the night anyway. So right. And so what else can I do? And he knows. Cats have this concept of time, don't they? They do.
Yeah.
He knows I have a live show on Mondays at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, he does. There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
And it goes on till about 10:15, 10:30. But nevertheless, he was still dealing with this. Fortunately, the fly that was buzzing around has left. Narc cats is oxytocin 67 exactly. Narc cat is what
low empathy kitten.
They have low they have high cognitive empathy. Or they can read us, but they don't care. They don't particularly care.
No.
Do you have a cat, Richard?
I've lived with cats. I've lived with girlfriends who had cats, and yes, they're quite sadistic. If your concentration is on something, they'll just put their ass in front of whatever it is, reading, making food. Well, they just go, "I'm here," and you go, "Well, what do you want?" I want you to look at me and stop what you're doing because it's fun.
But you haven't had a girlfriend who is a cat.
Not yet, but I don't discount the possibility.
No, you've got a good 40, 45 years left, hopefully. I mean, it's all kinds of feline
furries. They're called, aren't they? Those girls who dress up as cats.
Yes, I believe. Well, I think isn't it furries are the ones that think they are cats?
I don't know.
they. All right. The next question comes from AIO2, and he says, Ed, I heard the cat won't stop meowing unless you show him on stream. Yeah, as I believe I said, this is not the kind of cat that would be conducive to being shown.
Ed would be mauled.
Neither me nor my wife nor either of my children have managed to pick it up. We've had it since about January. So that was even before that. So shut up. So that's not. What do you want?
Attention.
So if I put the camera on him, maybe you can see him.
Yes. Everyone look at the cat. No, it's too dark.
Can you see him? Can you see him? It's too dark.
No, it's too dark. It's too dark.
All right.
But he knows now that he's created disruption, and he went quiet. He's like, I got a reaction. Good.
I'll put the light on, and then you can see. You can see him. All right.
Let's look at this. This is not Ed's cat. This is Ed's cat's cat. Ed's cat has a cat.
Come back in a minute. It's my cat has a cat, chaps, because my cat is very, very, very pro-social. It's like a dog, and to the extent that I have to walk him, and so he the flies back. What do you want, Bart? Come here, Bart. Look, Bart. Can you see Bart? If I put the camera down, can you see Bart?
Yes, I see a cat-like shape. Bart, stop this incessant meowing, Bart. It's unreasonable.
It is totally unreasonable. Right, I'm going to switch the light back off now because it makes my face look strange. Go away. Get out! Right. Sorry about this, chaps. It's bad show. It's bad show. Okay. The cat was. I can't show him on the stream AI02. So I'm sorry about that, but I will do my best to try something for next time. Okay, Rooster Jackson, £5. Thank you, sir. Says, now that Biden has bowed out, the left has immediately begun attacking Trump for being old. Is this Machiavellianism in action? That's more Richard question.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Now it matters. It didn't matter 5 seconds ago, but now it's absolutely crucial. I heard that today when I was doing a little bit of research before the podcast. People saying, oh, Kamala Harris is so much younger than him. Why is that relevant? You loved Biden literally 5 seconds ago, even though he was old and senile. Yes, it's a Machiavellianism. It's the floating moral value system. It changes dependent on context and objectives.
But it's amazing how they can be so utterly brazen. But I suppose if you think about people that one knows that are like narcissistic, that's exactly what they're like. They'll criticize you for something they do, and then when they do it, they'll come up with some justification for it. Oh well, that's just normal, and then when you do it, like getting angry. Oh, you got angry, you lost your temper. How dare you? Well, you lost temper the other day. Oh well, that was perfectly justified because of X, Y, Z.
I actually have a story of that. I was sat in bed with a narcissistic former girlfriend, and she was scrolling on her phone, and I was scrolling on my phone at the same time next to her in bed. And she went, "Look at you! You're just sat there, not talking to me, scrolling on your phone." And I looked at her and went, "But that's what you're doing." And she threw her own phone and stormed out of the room in this dramatic tantrum to take away from the fact, to sort of do this magic trick. So don't look at what is in front of your eyes. Now we're going to have an argument about the fact that I had to storm out the room because you were so rude to me. Where I just said, I'm doing exactly what you're doing, my love.
Because you were so rude. That's the thing. And they're very aware, these NPD type people. Oh God, something's falling off my wall. Just a sec. They're very aware of other people's facial expressions and things like that. So
hyper aware.
Yeah, so they'll sit there with a face like thunder, and that's fine. But if you have the slightest tick on your face that indicates you're unhappy, you were sitting in the car miserable the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
You're clearly not happy to be here. And why is that though? Why do they have to find something to have a go at you about? Like, does it make them feel better somehow?
I think it's relevant to the political debate. I'm not just shoehorning narcissism where it doesn't belong. I think it's quite an entrenched mindset, and it's a mindset of war. It's a mindset of winners and losers. And if you're attacking the enemy, you're doing the right thing. If you're attacking the enemy, they can't find the time to attack you. So everything is preemptive strikes. And to be honest, it kind of works. I mean, if you're in a relationship with one and you're constantly on the defensive, you're befuddled and confused the whole time. So it's a combative mindset, very divisive, very combative mindset.
And that's fascinating. Yeah, it's so fascinating, BPD. It really is. And so the idea that you could, and ironically, by doing that, because you've already love bombed them, they're still stuck with you, and the fact that you're then crushing them, which ironically, perhaps will, in some cases, if they've got flagging self-esteem themselves, actually make them ironically less likely to leave the more nasty you are to them. in the
100%.
hope, that niceness will come back, which it occasionally will.
Yeah.
In diminishing returns. So
Yeah.
it's just so frighteningly dreadful.
It's intermittent reinforcement, isn't it? That's what keeps the gambler going. That's what keeps the heroin addict going. It's most of the time it's completely awful if you're in the depths of a gambling addiction or a heroin addiction. But there are little peaks, there are little moments, and then your whole life just focuses on winning those moments back.
Yeah, and then those moments will be so intense that
Yes.
for some people they will be
Yes.
worth the abuse, and for some
Yes.
narcissistic people, those moments of being worshipped by the NPD person will be worth the. It's such a fascinating, complex strategy. There's all these life history strategies that one can think, all these niches, and it seems to me to be an adaptive niche. It works, as you say, it works.
Yeah, it does.
That's why you have to have these conferences about narcissism and whatever, because all these people have been through it. Because it does work. As you say, it's people like that become very senior in politics.
Yeah.
And so you can exactly expect one of the things they do, of course, these narcissists is gaslighting. So they will make you think you've gone mad. They will, if they're really insecure, BPD, they will admit that, yeah, I'm crazy, I've got problems, I'll get help, I'm sorry, you know. But then and that's only very rare that could happen. If you're going to walk out on them or something, and so
it would be it's always a strategy. I mean, I'm terribly dogmatic and pessimistic when it comes to NPD compared to other speakers on it. I don't believe that they ever genuinely go to therapy. It's just one more move on the chessboard. They don't know anything else but power. It's combat.
Yeah, but it's manipulative. But they will they will admit that there's faults with them or whatever. But when they're feeling better, then it's all you're gaslighting me by saying that I've got borderline personality because I completely broke down and scrounged out and went into psychosis and started going, oh my god, everyone wants to kill me or whatever. And so but we are being gaslit. We are going to be told that eventually that this was always the case, that Joe Biden. Yeah, we always accepted that there were cognitive problems. We always realised it, and they come up with some justification, like when the British MPs were found guilty of stealing, of fiddling Parliament in 2009, and you got people like Diane Abbott saying, "Well, it's the fault of the system." Well, hang on, it was a system that meant that if you were dishonest, you could get away with it. That was the system, and so it was the system's fault for letting you be dishonest.
Basically, you tempted me. You tempted me into ripping you off. What did you think I was going to do? My God, I'm only human.
The reality is that the MPs were not, in their view, as people of narcissistic, were not paid that well. They're certainly not paid as well as MPs in Finland. And so what they were told basically was, if you will get this salary, but you'll be able to double that using a creative use of expenses. Yes, and that was accepted for a very, very long time. Whereas if you read like Kenneth Clarke's memoirs, when he first became an MP in was it 1970, he was poor. I mean, he goes from being a barrister to having what was really not a very good salary, such that he couldn't afford to maintain his lifestyle. So he'd do both, and he'd do things like he'd work at the Nottingham bar during the day, and then make his way down to London for mid-afternoon for Parliament. And sometimes he'd just sleep at railway stations. He'd literally sleep out in those days, more trusting society, they would leave the waiting room open, and he would just sleep in the waiting room, wouldn't go home. And then imagine, and so he could be an MP and be a barrister because he needed to be both.
Yes. Yeah. Very different times.
And so God, yeah. Okay. The next question comes from I think I did that one, didn't I? I think Ed meowing low turkey tuna should HK, says low turkey tuna, be given back to Taiwan or kept British forever? I think Taiwan. Well, it's too late, isn't it? It's not British. But my personal view is we leased Taiwan for 100 years. Hong Kong for 100 years from the Chinese state in whatever it was, 1897 or something. That's when we did it. And that would have been the Emperor of China. So, and the successor state to that was then the Republic of China. And that state fled to Taiwan. And so by rights, it seems to me, logically, we leased Hong Kong from Taiwan. But obviously, the political interests, recognizing China as we did, I don't know when we recognized it, but doing so means that we accepted that China was the legitimate successor state, and so therefore we had to give Hong Kong back to China, to give them this wealthy thing, this patch of swamp, which we built up into one of the wealthiest places on earth. Was then given back to them, and these poor Hong Kong people suddenly have to live in a dictatorship. That's terrible, really.
It's
what do you
awful.
think, Richard?
I have friends who live in Hong Kong. I have a lot of friends from Hong Kong, and it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant what's happening there, and slowly, China's getting its tendrils and its tentacles deeper and deeper into Hong Kong, and it's inevitable. It will be eaten up by China, and all of the wealth and all of the infrastructure that you rightly said goes with it will be taken over by the People's Republic of China eventually. It's tragic. It's an awful story.
And we shouldn't have done it. We shouldn't have given. What they're going to do if they weren't going to declare? And then when we gave it back to them, they were still relatively weak.
Yeah.
So I do not understand. It's such an appalling thing to do, to let these people become powerful, such that they have leverage over us, both China and India, but particularly China. I mean, Indians we can kind of do business with, and then this happens. So I think we should. But we've too late now. Civilization's declining.
I've raised this with you before. I don't think colonialism is a good thing, but I do wonder if post World War II we kind of went into an anti-colonial frenzy, and then any gesture towards anti-colonialism, we just kind of hysterically, instinctively, we just did it without much thought, and we were like, oh well, that's kind of colonialism, so you have to undo that, you have to give it back without asking them, without saying to the people of Hong Kong, what do you want?
No, that's true. One could argue that the people of Hong Kong should have been asked, do you want to be part of Britain, or do you want to be part? Because they've done this with Gibraltar. With Gibraltar in the 60s, they had a referendum in Gibraltar on whether Gibraltar should be part of Spain or part of Britain. And it voted like 99% more to be part of Britain. And then there was these mobs trying to track down the 30 people that voted to be part of Spain and beat them up. So they overwhelmingly wanted part of Britain. As we know, in Australia, they had a referendum on whether they wanted to remain under the monarchy, and the monarchists won. So I think that if you're going to talk about the idea, it was an illegitimate thing to do. We're like setting them down the river. We were making these people against their will become part of quite an unpleasant dictatorship, and that's the much more shameful thing, I think,
and created decades of stress and kidnappings and all kinds of nastiness goes on now because of that rift.
And we should have. I mean, with so many of these countries, basically that we give them independence. Of course, they want to. It's clearly better if the British are ruling things. I think everybody, even the Americans, can agree with that. I mean, look at what's happening in America. If Charles III, the American head of state, they would never have been in this situation where this senile man and this DEI.
I 100% agree, and I think I'm so distressed by the division and combativeness that I see now in America. I know that it's kind of like a warlike country, and what I think we should do for our American cousins is re-invade. That's where we're going to see real unity. Americans joining left and right together to fight the invaders. That's the only thing that will save America now. I
agree, and presume, I mean. Yeah, I don't see how you could disagree with that. I mean, places like New York, they held out till 1783, and you had all these other places that were very strongly did not want to be anything other than British. And you have these maniacs like Andrew Jackson, who he hated the British killed his family basically, and so
was
he
rude.
Hated that was rude. But he hated the British for the rest of his life. He was rabidly anti-British. And he also killed a lot of Indians. And so I think we can agree. I don't know if we've got any Americans in the chat, but I think it's fair enough.
No, they'll be well up for it. They'll be well up for a reinvasion. And I think we should send, waves of special forces units in powdered wigs and red coats to evoke that genetic memory
Yeah.
waving flags with drummers, and we want that genetic memory.
Waving the old Union Jack,
the old Union
Ireland
Jack
was part of the Union. Yeah, that one. Which
that
still
one.
seems flying. Actually, I was at about 10 years ago or 11 years ago. I was at Jamestown, and they were very careful on the verisimilitude. You had that Union Jack, the original Union Jack, before Ireland was united into the state. So yeah, we should do that, and we shouldn't use the same kind of guns we used then, though, because that would put any of the Republican forces at a tactical advantage.
Absolutely.
Use tactical nuclear missiles, but we should wear wigs and red coats and that sort of thing. I am serious, James Anthony Clark. I am.
I also am 100% serious.
Hilarious. I am serious.
No.
In much the same way, in Finland, in Kokkola, in 1854, there was this sea battle which the British lost. And the Finns killed a load of British people, captured a load of others, and have kept to this day one of our boats, which they keep in a glass case in Kokkola Harbour. And I've always felt that the British should go there, take that boat, and take it back to
because it's ours.
It's ours. And they've got a copy of our crown jewels in Kemi in a museum. Rude.
Bloody upstarts.
Finnish rude is tuhma.
Tuhma.
Yeah, tuhma. It's on tosi tuhma.
Tuhma.
Okay. I had an interesting conversation today, actually, with some Finns. I'm planning with a fellow YouTuber to do a video about Finland, and we wanted to go to the border zone, and you have to have a permit to go into the border zone. And it says clearly on their website, it says very clearly that if you go into the border zone without a permit, I've been in the border zone without a permit, then you can get a fine if we catch you. But if you cross the border into Russia, that's illegal. That's like a crime. So it's like the difference between a parking ticket and a serious crime. And so then we thought to ourselves, well, what is this? What is this fine? How much? It's worth knowing, isn't it? So then I rang up, and they put me through these people. But of course, all these people were just sort of low-level security guards, and they had no idea. And you got this fascinating response where they were, why do you want to know this? We just like to know what is the.
We're planning to invade.
How many days' income? How many? Oh, we do not know. The Finnish law will know. Yeah. Well, how do I find out? Of course, they had no idea. But it's such a shame culture here that they don't want to admit they don't know, but they also can't the answer. And this went on and on and on. And there was obviously like their boss in the background who spoke even worse English, misunderstanding what was going on, clearly. And eventually he grabbed the phone and said, if you cross the border into Russia, that is a crime against the Finnish law. Do you understand? And I said, well, do you understand?
Triggered. #triggered.
I'm not saying it's 45 quid. That's not what they were saying. They were saying that it's to do with how many days income you have. You days of income. That's how they fine you in Finland. So if you earn a lot of money, you pay a big fine. But I guess it's 45 quid for like foreigners. Maybe they give them like a standard amount if you're foreign. So that would imply it's like 1 day's income fine. But I mean, we went in there without a permit, me and my wife, and we drove. This is about 15 years ago, and we drove around, and it's always fascinating. There's like Tsarist era signposts, and with crowns on, and places where they're clearly it's a time warp, and places where there clearly used to be villages, but they've been burnt down. And we stayed in it for a bit, and then drove out. But of course, the concern now is because of the situation in Russia. So I thought about getting a permit, and the guy that I spoke to from the media thing, he said no, we would at the moment because of the Russian situation, we wouldn't give a media permit. So it's an interesting thing.
It's a shame, man. I'd love to see some Tsarist era signs
in Finland. I like the idea though that this policeman, basically border guard policeman, thought I was ringing them up to tell them that I was intending to break the law, and I'd like to know, please, how much the fine is going to be. In fact, one of them asked, at which border do you want to illegally cross? Southern border or northern border?
What is the fine difference? Does it matter?
I had no idea. Absolutely no idea. Anyway, I'm going to round up now. Probably something dramatic's happened while we've been talking.
Probably.
died or something.
Yeah.
And so I will see you all next week. Remember again to subscribe to me, subscribe to Richard, and all that stuff and all that malarkey. And have a jolly good week. And we will see you all soon. And tally ho and goodbye. Oh, actually, I'll just check there's some last questions that have been sent in that I haven't seen. Oh, there is. I better answer these then. Sorry. So we have a Hibernian perspective. Can cats suffer from schizophrenia? I don't know. I will look it up for next week. And Goth Bureaucrat says, where do I find the full video back catalogue? Odyssey or BitChute. So go to if you mean my videos. Odyssey or BitChute. There's all kinds of interesting people I've interviewed. Not as interesting as Richard, though. But, for example, Godfrey Bloom, the former member of the European Parliament. Nick Fuentes, who's this influencer. Who else found who's interesting? Neil Hamilton, who was member of Parliament in the UK. Polish MP. There's loads of people I've interviewed. Loads of professors, Oxford, Cambridge. So anyway, you'll find those all there. So go and look there. All right, chaps. See you all next week. And goodbye.